start in just about 2 or 3 minutes. And while the rest of the committee members are signing in, my colleague Julia is toggling between 2 slides that tells you how to connect to the Spanish interpretation. If you are on your computer, you can select Spanish channel under the interpretation globe on the bottom of your screen. And there's also alternative phone line, translation phone line that you can dial in case you cannot connect to the Spanish interpretation via your computer. And Mari or anyone from the Air District, please share these instructions in Spanish. I appreciate it.
Oh, I see Mari's on the phone. She'll provide it in just a moment.
Welcome, everyone. We're giving another minute or 2 for the committee members to sign in. And meanwhile, please use the naming conventions on the screen to rename yourself. My colleague Julia is helping with renaming behind the screen. And also you're seeing instructions how to connect to the Spanish interpretation channel if you are tuning in into this meeting in Spanish.
Hannah Mari's on the line troubleshooting with one of the members, trying to get them logged in. She'll be on in just a sec to put that information out.
That's quite all right. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, so we are having some technical difficulties with the Spanish conference line. It sounds like our interpreter is not on fully connected because we can barely hear him. And so I'm not sure if we have somebody else on the line. So hold on. Oh, he's on. We're good. So I can say the message now. We're ready for that. I apologize.
It's okay.
That's all it took, Mari. We're good now.
Yeah. Exactly, thank you. Okay, so muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la reunión de Chapter. Aquí en la pantalla va a poder cómo seleccionar para entrar a la interpretación en español. Va a buscar el logotipo como el mundo abajo de la pantalla. Va a seleccionar eso y luego el oprimir el idioma español. Y hay veces que también tiene que seleccionar el botón que dice Mute Original Audio. Eso significa silenciar audio original y así pueda escuchar la reunión aquí a través de Zoom en español. En caso de que tenga algún problema técnico de audio, puede llamar al teléfono que está aquí en la pantalla también, que es el 1-844-867-6169 con el código de acceso de 508-3396 y tecla o el signo de número. Y así usted puede escuchar aunque sea el audio a través de la línea telefónica. En este momento, ¿alguna persona tiene algún problema técnico o tiene alguna pregunta acerca de esta interpretación en español? Okay, no escucho nada, entonces vamos a poder seguir. Hannah, we can go ahead and proceed.
Great. Thank you, Mari. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah. I am part of the facilitation team from the ILG. My colleague this evening is Julia Salinas. I don't know if you can see her or not, but she is waving at you right now. As always, the ILG team will be facilitating this conversation. Our facilitation goal for tonight is to offer neutral guidance and capture community voices and priorities as you continue to implement the community emissions reduction plan for Chapter. Our goal is also to ensure that we stay on time and we cover the agenda items that you identified as the priority for this meeting. And as always, we strive to keep the dialogue civil and respectful. And we're here to help you with any technical difficulties or any other issues you may have throughout the meeting. So please do not hesitate to pause us if you have any technical difficulties, or to chat with Julia privately. It's definitely a teamwork to make sure these meetings are going smoothly and everyone is set in terms of technical difficulties. Okay, so we're gonna go to our, I'm gonna check in with Mari one more time to make sure our Spanish-speaking participants are all set and everyone is connected and everyone can hear us very well.
Ok, hola, buenas tardes una vez más. Nomás queríamos pasar esto un poquito más en breve para dejarles saber si necesitan que ingresar al idioma de español. Puede seleccionar el logotipo del mundo y va a tener también que oprimir el botón de español y luego silenciar audio original, que es Mute Original Audio. Y por otra vez de nuevo, si tiene algún problema técnico a través de Zoom, puede llamar al número de teléfono que está en la pantalla del 844-867-6169 con el código de acceso de 508-3396 y tecla o el signo de número. En este momento, ¿tiene alguna persona algún problema técnico o necesita que o ayuda para ingresar al español? Ok, parece que todos estamos bien. Podemos seguir. Hannah, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go and review our agenda for today. We're gonna start with Serp measures review, and we're gonna hear updates on several Serp measures, including vegetative barriers and urban greening, lawn and gardening equipment, residential wood smoke reduction strategy, and other strategies. And we will have open discussion on ongoing implementation of these strategies. We're going to continue with this pesticide monitoring study update, where we're going to hear from the Department of Pesticide Regulations. Then we're going to go into standing updates, and we're going to hear from the Air District on air monitoring updates and our partner agencies. Then we're going to have a wrap up and public comments. And before we go on to the next slide, just want to highlight that we've heard your request, the committee request at the last meeting, to have a robust dialogue around pesticide regulations that goes beyond standing updates and have all the stakeholders in the room. And as you could see on your printed agenda, if you had a chance to take a look at your printed and posted agenda, the Kern County Agricultural Commissioner update is scheduled for the next month. The dialogue will continue, and we'll have that robust dialogue and conversation that you requested at our next September committee meeting. And as always, each month we incorporate agenda items that this committee wants to hear, and we bring to you partners, experts, and resource agencies that reflect your suggestions. And we continue to refine this meeting as we go, and we always appreciate hearing committee feedback and suggestions, how we can make these meetings more positive, more productive, and what's important to this committee. And as you notice, there is no committee co-host today, so I'm gonna do my plug and encourage you to volunteer for the next meeting, even though you had volunteered in the past. This is not a large committee, so of course you're gonna volunteer 2 or 3 times, but it's incredibly important to have your voice right here in this space together with the facilitators and ensure that priority of this committee is covered at each meeting. Okay, let's go to our virtual meeting etiquette and control. I know this is not our first meeting, but we are being respectful to the members of the public who perhaps attended this meeting for the very first time. So this is types of virtual etiquettes that we're using during these meetings. We're kindly asking you to stay on mute to minimize the background noise. If you're planning to speak, please go ahead and raise your blue hand. Or if you're joining the audio on the phone, you're gonna press *9 to raise your blue hand. And on the computer, you're gonna see your blue hand on the bottom of your screen under the reactions. Use the chat box to communicate questions and comments, and the Air District and partner agency will answer your comments or questions to the best of their abilities. A friendly reminder, the chat is not private, even though it has a direct message function. If you are connecting with your computer and with your phone on 2 different devices, we're asking you to link your 2 accounts, so you're showing up in our participant list as one participant. And you're gonna press pound on your phone and type your participant ID. And if you need help to find your participant ID, please contact Julia and she will navigate you through the system. Again, knowing who is on today, who is participating is incredibly important. This is how we keep the attendance log, and especially for the residents who are eligible for the stipends. And we are tirelessly renaming you. And I'm gonna pause and ask my colleague Julia to see if there's any members in our participants list who need help renaming or who we're not sure who they are.
Yeah, thank you. I think I see one person, Juan Sanchez, who I'm not sure who that is. So Juan, if you're a member of the public or affiliated in some way, feel free to.
Juan's with us at DPR.
CPR?
DPR.
DPR, yeah.
Oh, DPR. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I can rename you. Thank you.
And a friendly reminder for the residents eligible for the stipend, you need to remain in this meeting for the 75% of the time, which equals to about an hour and a half for today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live on Facebook. And let's talk about public meeting details. These meetings are open to public. Public is welcome to attend and participate. Thank you for being here. There's two opportunities to participate. You are watching us via Facebook, or you're here today on the Zoom line. All the comments and questions we will be addressing at the end of the meeting during your public comment period. So you're welcome to type in the Facebook as we go, or you're welcome to use the chat box as we go. But again, we're going to address your comments and questions at the end of the meeting. And just another friendly reminder before I pass it to Ryan for his welcome, and I would like to pass it to community co-host, but we don't have one today. So another shameless plug, please volunteer to be our next community co-host. Just a friendly reminder that this committee, this group strives to have respectful dialogue and respectful tone and conversation. Your participation is incredibly important, and this is part of this unique community-led process. It's okay to disagree, we're all different, but please be respectful, empathetic, and civil. And I encourage you as your facilitator to respectfully challenge ideas and outcomes and never attack a person. It's just not nice. And as always, honor every person's humanity and dignity. And this is always strive personally and as a group. And with that, I'm gonna pass it to Ryan.
So you guys get me instead of Ryan.
Yay! Hi, Jessica.
So, hello. I'll be brief, as Ryan would be. Just to thank you all for being here. My name is Jessica Olson. I'm the Director of Community Strategies and Resources with the Valley Air District. And I'm really excited about today's agenda. As always, we had an agenda setting meeting. We heard a lot of great feedback. Hannah already touched on some of the feedback we heard. We did reach out, and we just for scheduling reasons had to schedule the Ag Commissioner for the next meeting, but we'll touch base a little bit on that in the agenda and how we can help prepare for that meeting moving forward. We also have a lot of great updates on some other things you wanted to hear about, so we're excited, and thank you all for being here.
Great, thank you, Jess. Without further ado, we're at 5:13, doing fantastic on time. We're gonna dive in right into our agenda, and next we're gonna review Serp measures, and we're gonna review the tracker and have open discussion on ongoing implementation on several measures. As always, for those of you who don't know what the Serp Tracker is, I hope you guys all know by today. It's a document that the Air District is updating every month. It's posted online in Spanish and English, and Spanish-speaking participants of this committee usually receive updated Spanish version once a month, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Air District. And the Serp Tracker allows you to review and learn about the progress that the Air District and you are making on the Serp implementation. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Jessica and Heather, who will give you a little bit of updates on some of the measures.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hannah. So as Hannah mentioned, and you all know this, but it's been a bit since we've just gone through the tracker. For a while there, every other meeting, we're going through the tracker. So we definitely wanted to take a moment today, highlight some quick items, and then Heather's going to talk a little bit about something we talked about in our agenda setting meeting, which is our residential wood smoke reduction program. So I dropped in the chat so you can follow along in the chat. As mentioned, Spanish-speaking participants should have received a hard copy the same day that we posted this, so they can follow along while I share an English version. But again, this is our Serp Tracker. For those that are unfamiliar or haven't seen it in a while, every measure in the Serp is listed here with our staff contact at the Air District, a brief description of what's in the Serp, whether or not a community emission reduction incentive plan is required, meaning does CARB need to have some review before we can start the measure, what we committed to in the Serp, and then this big bold box is really what I'm going to go over. And while the rest of this is a great sort of tracker of where we want to go in the future, how many emissions reduction tons we've gotten, this is really sort of that tracker piece that you're going to want to pay attention to as we scroll down. So the first thing I want to notice, or you may have noticed if you saw our tracker last time, I think we had somewhere in the realm of 10 harvesters. These are low dust nut harvesters, so the harvesters that make it less dusty when people go through and harvest mostly almonds within the area. That was one of the main concerns in the Serp when we developed it. So you see here, we've committed for the entire length of the Serp to replace 25 pieces. We've already contracted to replace 19 harvesters. So when I say contracted, that means that to date, 19 people have agreed to replace harvesters. We're in contract, we've committed all of that funding. Now this, like, as you can imagine, these are big pieces of equipment. So when these harvesters are ordered, it takes a little bit of time for them to come in. So while we have 19 here, you're probably not going to see them all at harvester season, which is probably starting right now, right? So you'll probably, it's possible you might see a few out there, but certainly you won't see 19 out there this season, but we're hopeful that by next season they should be out there, and we'll definitely know and can give even more detailed updates on that as we see people finally get their orders filled. But it does take time. These are sort of built to order. They're very specialized pieces of equipment. But that's certainly some place where we're moving along and have almost actually fulfilled the entire commitment on the Serp. As we move down, I'm just going to highlight a couple of other things that have moved along since we last gave this update. Replacing diesel agricultural equipment, so meaning tractors mostly, with the cleanest available equipment. We've actually almost also committed the entire 100 tractors. Same thing, we've contracted and agreed and are moving forward on 82 tractors. So that's something too that we're moving forward with really, really quickly. And we definitely want to thank all of those that have helped with outreach on that measure in particular. Something that we're definitely, we heard that we wanted folks to touch on today that I'll go over here in a moment. You'll see 0 here because we have yet to fund residential wood burning devices. And that's what we want to talk to you about today. Is we're going to open that program up soon once we get official word from CARB that we're okay to do so. And we want to talk today about outreach, about how you can apply, and about getting people into gas, out of wood burning into gas or even electric heating as we move forward with this measure. So there's definitely a big target here that we want to get started on, and that's the main thing that Heather will talk with you about today. Scrolling down the rest, you can sort of see we've heard a lot of great updates recently about outreach, about enforcement. So you can see all of the great updates there. So I definitely don't need to spend time scrolling through this entire thing. Those are just sort of the main highlights I wanted to share based on what the tracker says. Now, there are 2 other pieces that are in the agenda that I just wanted to give updates on. And if you have any questions, we do have our incentives folks to help answer. The first is that you'll be happy to know that the urban greening measure we've been talking about every once in a while at length, and I see Linda's here, so she'll be happy to hear. We've talked a lot about how the match funding for that measure was sort of inhibiting us from moving forward on urban greening. And so
just I'm gonna pause it for just a moment. We received the message from our interpretation team asking us to speak a little bit slower.
Oh yes, certainly. Sorry, that was me thinking I was speaking slowly. So that's how fast I normally talk. So I appreciate it. And yes, the nut harvesters, just now that I'm opening up the chat, the nut harvesters are in that whole entire radius. So they're all within that boundary or in that radius, Bianca, to answer your question. So my 2 updates are we are taking an item to our governing board next Thursday to open up the urban greening vegetative barriers programs at the Valley Air District, which is very exciting based on the Serp here and in Fresno. And with that, we are looking to remove that match funding component. So you'll be happy to know, yay, and I see claps from Linda. You'll be happy to know, hopefully that makes things move along a lot easier. and a lot more quickly. So we'll definitely give you an update afterwards, but we, at the end of the week, when the time comes, we'll actually let you know and send a notice out to the group, the time and the agenda item for that governing board meeting. So definitely be on the lookout for that update. The second update I have for you is just to let you know, we are still looking forward to scheduling and coordinating and working with a lot of you to coordinate the lawn and garden equipment exchange. It is very hot outside. I'm sure all of you have noticed that. And it is very smoky right now, and we'll get to a little bit of that here in a moment as well. And so this is an event that's definitely going to be sort of an outdoor event, something that we want to coordinate, and we think that fall is the best time to do it. That doesn't mean that people can't start exchanging. We've definitely had a few people take advantage, but in terms of having one big event, something we've talked about with you all, something we are looking to do in the fall, and we want to coordinate with you all on to make sure it's done well. We have all of the vendors in place, and then of course that it's not so hot or bad air quality from smoke that people aren't able to come and be outside and be safe. So that's just that update there. And then finally, the update that I will pass over to Ms. Heather is just sort of a brief reminder of everything we have in the SERP regarding residential wood burning. And in that, we'll talk mostly about the incentives, but we will also briefly talk about outreach and how we get people to understand sort of the importance of replacing their wood burning devices. You will also see in Heather's presentation, just because it's all in the same breath, some of the enforcement stuff, but we talked at length about enforcement a couple months ago. So we definitely are really looking to dive into that as much as we are into getting your feedback on outreach and moving forward. So I am going to pause there and see if I have any questions before maybe I pass to Heather.
Jess, we do have a couple questions in the chat, which would be beneficial to answer now, but the greater
Okay, great.
of the good. Okay, so Bianca is asking, are the harvesters in the shafter radius?
Yes, sorry, I answered that earlier, but I don't think I was clear. Yes, the Bianca, again, the harvesters are in the shafter radius, and everything that we're funding is within that, the radius, the boundary of the whole project plan.
And there's a question/comment from Linda, and Linda, feel free to chime in verbally to make sure we're capturing this correctly. Do you think we can get more funds to this program? It looks like it's going great. And Linda, which program were you referring to?
I was talking about the low dust nut harvesters and the tractors, since we were getting really close to what we had allocated throughout the next couple of years. Just is really exciting that people are taking advantage of these great programs.
Yeah, no, it is great. Well, so I will say a couple of things. One is that in terms of the SERP, we definitely have, our budget that we've adopted and our commitments, through working with you all on the funds for the SERP for the different measures within the SERP. And that's really all like the total budget for this plan as adopted by our board and by CARB's board. But I will say that, and Brian can attest to this, that that's for like SERP funds for all of this targeted stuff. The tractor program and the low dust, nut harvester program are ongoing programs at the district. So that doesn't mean that there won't still continually be available funds, moving forward, even after this program is gone, assuming that those are still programs that are funded outside of AB 617. So that will certainly be the case. But as for now, I think what I would take away from it, I mean, obviously they're well taken advantage of programs, but what I think we need to take away from it as a committee really is, okay, how do we now, the programs that aren't being taken advantage of, how do we now maybe shift our focus to get outreach for those? How do we get people to take more advantage of lawn and garden is always a good example, or some of the other things like truck replacement, or some of the bigger lifts like urban greening is a great example.
Great. And there's another comment from Alexa, or question, and I don't know if you want to answer that now and maybe after Heather's presentation. Alexa is asking, can any of the match requirements be modified for RD2, the road dust measure?
That's a great question. And I think, Alexa, to you and to Mike, so the city and the county, I think that's something that we want to still continue to explore and continue to work with on the incentives side. And maybe we continue to have that kind of dialogue open between, I'm looking at Brian Dodds, who's been working with Mike, but maybe not so much you, Alexa, I know maybe even in your update, I don't know if we want to touch on some of the projects and kind of what that funding need looks like, but we agree. We have heard the same comment actually for land use projects, and that is something that we want to continue to explore. So that's a great comment.
Great. Well, just let me see if there's other questions, verbal questions, and also from our Spanish speaking line before we move to Heather's updates, because you gave us quite a bit of updates. I don't want people to lose their thoughts or questions. Anyone on the Spanish speaking line, any questions for Jessica about the updates that she shared?
It seems like we don't have any questions.
Thank you, Tanya. Bianca, I see your hand. Good evening.
Hi, sorry. My question is in regards to the garden. I'm actually here with the ladies, and they're mentioning like how much longer is the gardening project going to happen, because we see the numbers incrementing, and yet they haven't been able to take advantage of that incentive that is happening. So
oh yeah, so and something maybe I want to, good point, Bianca, something I want to continue to mention, and maybe I'll bring up the tracker here. Everything that's in this committed funding for each measure is committed for each measure at this moment. So there's not, just because we're close to spending all of the money, and this is kind of related to my answer to Linda's question, just because we're close to spending all of the money, say in low dust harvesters, that's not taking away at all from the fact that we still have and will continue to have the money available for the lawn and garden equipment replacement. That is going to be open as long as we have the funding for it through this project, before the end of the 5 years, or 4 or 5 years from now is up. So lots and lots of time. When we're talking about the event, we're just talking about a quick way for those that need help in getting their equipment taken in, to the junkyard, or essentially, has to get dismantled so they can get the full benefit of removing a dirty piece of equipment. But here we go. This $100,000 isn't going to go to any other. This $100,000 is here for this measure. And even though we only have 5 right now, and we look to add more, it's definitely, we have the rest of this program time to spend that money. So there's definitely, this isn't running out of money or time by any means. If anything, we'd want to continue to get people engaged. And that's the point of having that fall event that we're thinking. But people can take advantage now. If they can't make the fall event and they decide next year, assuming we don't meet the 280 units by next year, we can keep funding it until we reach that 280. So definitely not running out of resources for the lawn and garden equipment piece yet.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Any other questions before we move to Heather? I see none. Heather, take it away.
Yay, thank you. And thanks for the reminder. I too am like Jess, and I will work on speaking slowly. All right, let's talk about reducing wood smoke in your community. Big priority. We've got 5 measures in our SERP that apply to this, and it's time to dig in and get going. You can actually go to the next slide. So the very first measure we prioritize, RB1, is the incentives on the incentive side to replace those devices in the homes. And so what I'd love for you to do is start thinking about your home, your neighbor's home, your community, places that you see wood smoke coming in the wintertime. All of these are opportunities for places we can reduce that wood smoke. You've committed $600,000, and as Jess just pointed out, that funding will stay there until it's exhausted to replace those 200 wood burning devices. So we've got 200 homes that we can dig in and get rid of an old yucky wood producing, smoke producing device and replace it hopefully with natural gas. Next slide, please. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight, we're going to talk a couple things actually in depth for a while about how we can reach the community and get these trade outs happening. But let's cut it back to sort of the beginning and what actually has to happen if we're going to do that, if you were to take advantage of this program. The district commits the funding, and in this case, and Brian, feel free if I speak, I don't think I will, but if I do, with regard to the program plan, well, actually, let me take a step back. As Jess mentioned, CARB is reviewing our program plan. So we are in the great position to get out ahead of it, get our application wrapped up, and actually, start people through that process now so that, the moment we have the green light, we've got an application in front of you, and folks, can take advantage. Even at this point, I would say start shopping around. Somebody that has a device, it's not too soon to take a look. The very first thing that would happen if they were indeed going to try and get some funding is to fill out the application with us. And the reason we do that is because we commit, we process our applications and commit that funding to that household ahead of time. So we make sure it's committed, it's on file, and a voucher gets committed to that family for that household to replace their device. And so we vet all of the details ahead of time. We get a picture from you of your old device. You could go look around and start shopping and get an idea of what you want. But we fill out the application. You provide the information of what you have currently in your home, including photos. And you submit that to us, and we make sure that all of the information is collected appropriately, and then we can issue you a voucher. And what that simply is a piece of paper or verification, which we could also send to a retailer that says you have the funding. In this case, it would be $3,000, $2,500 toward replacing your device, and $500 for the workings of routing the gas line. But essentially, to go from wood burning to natural gas, everyone qualifies for $3,000. And so that voucher would be committed to that person after their application. And the opportunity then is to shop. Go find what you're looking for. You certainly can shop ahead of time, but the process, the transaction, the order for a new unit can't occur until that voucher is in place for a couple good reasons. One, when you head out to look, you're going to find that there are 7 retailers in the Bakersfield area. We definitely couldn't find one closer to home, but we are open to always adding new potential retailers. They kind of get an agreement with the district and help provide access and fill out applications and push the Burn Cleaner program forward. And all of those retailers in the area, in the Shafter area, do what we call an instant reduction, which is where low-income applicants can have that funding taken right off the top of their purchase, so they don't actually have to come out of pocket. And all of those retailers will participate that way, so that, roughly speaking, we've learned that you could probably get a nice natural gas unit, just basic, to replace a wood burning unit for about the $3,000, maybe a little bit more, but it very much comes close. And so for a potential low-income applicant, they wouldn't have to come out of pocket at all. They would simply show up with their voucher, do the transaction, and then wait for installation to occur. And then the funding, of course, when that gets paid out from the district, it would go back to the retailer. And so that would be a simpler transaction. In general, though, the public has the ability to process, to have a voucher application completed, hear back from the district that it was approved, know they have that working in their favor as they go and apply and purchase a unit. And if it wasn't a low income applicant, that person, that individual family, would then do the rest of the voucher process, which basically says, hey, they've been to my house, they've installed the new unit. Here's a photo of the new unit. Here, here's the whole process is complete. And you send that application back to get the $3,000 back. That's if the person came out of pocket. So hopefully that's not confusing. It can happen both ways. There's definitely an opportunity to be able to get a new unit without having to front $3,000. And so, still back to my first question, are you thinking about your neighbor? Are you thinking about your home, the devices that can potentially be replaced? We want to get rid of them. We want to go out in the community and hopefully track all of them down and find opportunities and looking for ideas from you guys on how to get those opportunities or how to find them, how to get to those residents directly that have those units in their homes. Next slide. While we're on this topic, though, it doesn't stop us from continuing the discussion, which is the second measure. RB2 was to educate the public about the harmful impacts of wood smoke and burning. And in the Serp measure, the bold on this screen, we as a CSC have committed to public workshops and circulating infographics. But really, that's just the beginning. Those are sort of the baseline information we want to provide to the public, educating them on the true health impacts, and then just get it from there into other places. Maybe there's events that happen in the wintertime, or, certainly we're going to have multiple years, lots of time to continue working at this. So all the ideas are welcome in that sense. I mean, we can put billboards up in, the community, and certainly show up at any and all retailers in the area, with the same kind of information and quick screens. But we're committed to, spreading the word, not just, hey, change out your device, go to natural gas, but here's why. Here's why it's not good for your community, and here's what you need to really consider. Next slide. As Jess mentioned, just to sort of remind you it's in there, and you got a good enforcement update last month, but just so you remember and know it's there, enhancement of wood burning curtailment, additional surveillance. You can see kind of what it says there is happening. All of this is happening and still going on, and will continue in the community. And the next one. This is the one where I probably would more likely get a billboard out, on the outskirts of town, or in some specific places where maybe we see, as it says there, the frequent violations, and just the sheer education that needs to happen, and the opportunities folks have to get rid of their waste through means other than burning. But we've committed to hosting workshops, which those will all sort of blend together. Once we can get community meetings up and running again, we had the one back earlier this year, and we'll continue to do that. All of these topics will be a part of conversation no matter what. We'll always be talking about reducing wood smoke and lawn and garden machines and things like that. So there will hopefully be opportunities to be in front of the community soon, and we want to do that, and kind of run down the gamut of all the things that they can take advantage of, from maybe reporting what they're seeing to just truly changing out the device and eliminating that pollution source in their neighborhood. And I think that might be the last. We have one more. We have RB5. Also, enhanced enforcement for reducing illegal burning of residential waste. And it kind of, as it says, targeted surveillance in the chapter in your community and the surrounding area. But that being said, we are up against wood smoke. That is our goal. We want to reduce it. We want to, I'm thinking just about, it's a small community. So if we want to do mailers, just some food for thought in the outreach world, we know that it takes many, many times to hit a household. If you guys are interested in that, we could do half a dozen mailers throughout the winter months, or, starting now through the end of the year, letting people know, one, there's funding available, and two, there's cleaner alternatives. So the conversation, I would love all of your feedback as to what you'd like to see us do, in addition to sort of the mainstream things that we would potentially do anyway, from social media to, certainly we would talk about maybe wood burning replacements if we had a lawn and garden event at Floyd's in town, but the local radio and the Shafter Press, whatever it takes, all of those things are on the table.
Great, Heather. Okay, so I'm hearing two things here happening. What your feedback is valuable on is two things. First of all, the air district needs people to apply to replace wood burning device with a cleaner unit, and the application will take time. So one thing is reaching out to your community, to your neighbors, to encourage them to apply. And there's additional outreach that can go hand in hand, is that educational outreach about harmful impacts of illegal burning, how to reduce illegal burning. And the Air District is asking your ideas for this targeted outreach. How can they better spread the word? One of the idea is mailers. And what other ideas do you have that you can share right now at this meeting? How can we encourage people to apply and fill out the applications?
The other thing, in general, And this will probably be more helpful as it gets colder and we see it, but you're the eyes and ears for us. Certainly would love to know maybe if there's specific spots in town that are, maybe we should do some boots on the ground and hand out some flyers, and potentially create a flyer just the same to do that sort of, outreach. So any idea is welcome is, I guess, my point. And knowing that it may not be totally top of mind right now, but to Hannah's point, if you know somebody that wants to get replaced in time for this winter, they've got to get that ordered, and it takes a few weeks. It takes a few weeks to process the app, and then a few weeks to get it ordered, and maybe 1 or 2 more to get it installed. So it might be like a 6-week process, or even 8. Yes, Linda.
I know this sounds weird, but sometimes in Shafter and Wasco, I found that putting, there's flyers on, say, like Apple Market, different grocery stores that are highly trafficked. On the front door, they sometimes allow for flyers like that. So I know that's out of the norm, but the mailers are great because that's a direct impact to the residents. City of Shafter, maybe they would be open to putting it on their Facebook page. There's the chamber. I can get you a list.
Yes.
More than happy to help try and spread the word.
Thank you. And do we have any city employees on the committee? I was wondering, because we've worked with the city to push out lawn and garden, and I'm wondering if anybody saw that come through. Just kind of a test of our system.
Mike's face is on. I think he's unmuted.
Oh yeah. Hey Mike, did you see lawn and garden info come out in your city emails?
I don't recall, but I'll, as we're talking here, I can check the Facebook page. That sounds like something we would have done, but let me verify.
Awesome. Or I'll just keep funneling it your way.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And we're seeing a suggestion from Michael James, using the organization Listen to Shafter for public outreach. Thank you for that suggestion, Michael. Gus, what suggestions, ideas do you have for the committee and Air District? Hello.
Yeah, mine was more of a question. Say there is a renter that is interested in like the changing that and gets authorization from the landlord. Is that permissible?
Yes, absolutely.
They have to be like the owner of the property.
Correct. So I believe the application, I'll have to take a look. The owner would have to sign a form that goes along with the application indicating that it's okay.
Okay.
Brian.
That is a possibility. Okay, thank you.
So yes, great question, Gus. Thanks. I didn't even point that out, but that's a very good point. You don't necessarily have to own the property. You certainly have to be in good relationship or a good working dialogue with maybe whomever owns it, but that does not prevent them from taking a part.
Any other ideas or suggestions from this committee how to promote replacement of the wood burning device, which is going online and filling application and getting that voucher so that residents can actually go and replace the device, as well as ideas for educational outreach around illegal burning, the harmful effects of illegal burning, and how to reduce illegal burning. And I see another suggestion from Michael. Besides Listen to Shafter organization, Teen Challenge is an excellent source of volunteers as well. Any ideas from our Spanish speaking participants? I know you guys mentioned at the last meeting that sometimes it needs additional outreach for the Spanish speaking participants because, it's a free money, and it needs additional convincing that the free money is there and take advantage of that. Any specific suggestions or ideas how to reach out, which specific locations to go? What ideas do you have?
Hey, Linda, what is Smith's Corner?
It's a region, like within like a county region, right? Within.
It's an outlying area like the colony.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I bet they do. That's a great idea. So Linda's suggestion in chat was see if that Smith's Corner has a Facebook page. I believe the colony probably does as well. I know some of the members are probably real active on that. And yeah, what I think we'll continue to do is create a couple of pieces that are easily shared for you guys for that social scene. And then coming from you, hopefully it has the validation that it's not too good to be true.
Okay, well, Heather, let me pause and see if we have suggestions from the Spanish-speaking members.
I don't have anything from the line.
Okay, well, I think, Heather, we got several ideas to get you jump start.
Thank you.
Again, replacing your wood burning device is a process. You need to fill out application. Your neighbors need to fill out application. They need to get a voucher. They need to install it and then submit the documentation. And while the Air District is finalizing that process, please promote and spread the word about this program and that money is available. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, reflections before we move on to our next agenda item? And by the way, we're doing fantastic on time. I see none. And again, is a big fan of the Serp Tracker, the online document that has all the information about the progress that you and the Air District is doing on individual measures. Feel free to review the tracker at any given time, and really you don't need to wait until the committee meetings to share your suggestions, additional outreach ideas on any of the programs. Just reach out to the Air District. And we have a comment from Bianca. Can you send an application for Filipa? And Heather, did we show folks how to get to the applications?
Oh, thanks for that, Hannah. So technically speaking, if somebody found our application online right now and made their way through, we would definitely take care of them, flagging that it's for Shafter. But so we're in the final process of finalizing that application and making it available, given the CARB approval process, right? We're probably, I don't know how far out, I don't want to make a guess, but very close to receiving that, in which case the link will be put on the main Shafter page, and I could show you that and remind you that. Go ahead, Jess.
And I was just about to say, I think too, one thing we are translating right now, or doing right now, is making a page that's translated in Spanish to make it easier for everyone to apply.
Right.
So
yes,
what we will do is folks we'll send out an update email very shortly, hopefully within the next week or so. At least get folks starting to apply, even if we know we have a little bit of time on the final CARB approval. We're definitely I think we're at the tail end of that back and forth, just, a few tweaks here and there, I think, to the program plan. So we'll definitely let everyone know. We'll do a big announcement. This is sort of like a preview of what that looks like. Yeah. And like I said, we're getting what we call a portal, meaning it's just an easier way to apply. But of course, as always, when we do send out that email, if folks need help, Bianca, you can help have us reach out, or we can reach out to Felipe and help her fill out that application.
Yes, and we will so when those Spanish applications are done, and we can also do that as well, just get you straight over an email so that you have it and can distribute it to whomever needs it.
Great. And as Air District finalizing Spanish translation and other details, reach out to your neighbors. And another comment from Angie, thank you for sharing. You can also share this information on the Shafter Community Wellness Facebook page. Heather, I think you got a good list of
yes, very
targeted outreach. And Linda, thank you for being rock star and providing additional lists after this meeting.
The good news is I will use those lists for more than just burn cleaner.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I see no other activities. I just wanted to circle back to our Spanish-speaking participants before we close this agenda item for this meeting and move it to the next one, to the next agenda item, to see if they have any final questions, thoughts, reactions.
I don't have anything from the phone line. I don't know if the participants in Zoom, maybe.
Okay, well, looks like if you have any ideas sparkling as we go, use the chat to share it with the Air District. Again, before we move on to the next agenda item, my colleague Julia is reminding me that we have a couple people on the participant list on this Zoom meeting. We're not sure who they are, and we just wanted to make sure we track everyone, especially for the stipend purposes. We have a phone number starting with 559. Can we identify the phone numbers ending with 3202. Can you unmute yourself and identify who you are? Press *6, the phone number ending at 3202. If you can press *6 and let us know who you are. And it looks like that phone number just disappeared from our participant list. Okay. Okay, another person, we have Jasmine in the participant list with no last name. Jasmine, could you please identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Jasmine Buenrostro. I'm with CCEJN, Central California Environmental Justice Network. I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator, and I was just listening to the AB 617 of Shafter.
Oh, absolutely, thank you, welcome. And if you don't mind, could you please rename yourself to include your last name and affiliation?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much. And we have Naomi Rodriguez. I think one more person. We are not sure which organization or if it's a member of the public. Naomi Rodriguez.
Hi, I'm here with Linguistica. Here
Hi.
just to support.
Excellent. We love Linguistica team. You guys are always doing an excellent job. And simultaneous translation is very, very hard. And thank you for reminding us to slow down. I know it's sometimes you just forget. Okay, I think we got everyone. One more.
Renee also is one other person we wanted to make sure we knew who Renee was.
Hi, this is Renee.
Hi, Renee.
I'm actually stuck in a traffic jam, so I can't really talk. So I'm watching while trapped in traffic. So.
Okay, and are you with the organization or are you just a member of the public?
I'm watching as a member of the public.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. And if you're wondering why Julia and I spending so much time figuring out who is on our participant list, it's just because we want to make sure we capture all the residents' participations who are eligible for the stipends, and we track them all to ensure they get their stipend checks. Okay, now we're all moving on to our next agenda item, and we have pesticide monitoring study update. Another exciting agenda item, because I know you've been asking for this update for several months now. And Department of Pesticide Regulation was diligently working on preparing that specific update for you. And they also encountered some staff changes and there was some delays, but this day is finally happening, and we're gonna hear from Min Pham, branch chief with Environmental Monitoring Branch on pesticide monitoring study update. Min, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. Hopefully everybody's doing well this evening. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So just give me 1 second as this presentation loads up here.
It's looking good, and just a friendly reminder to speak slower, and this presentation will be available in Spanish and English.
Yeah, I will try my best, and I apologize. I'm kind of working through a tail end of a cough. My little kids are germ magnets right now, so hopefully that'll slow me down. So as Hannah said, my name is Min Pham. I am the Environmental Monitoring Branch Chief. And we're here today to give you an update on the 1,3-D mitigation pilot project, specifically that of the end of last year, where we first started the pilot project with our first field study in Shafter. So there we go. So just a quick update. I'm sure you guys have seen this slide several times. 1,3-D is the fumigant that we're targeting. It is a pre-plant fumigant used to control nematodes, insects, disease. It's widely used throughout California on various fruit and nut trees, strawberries, carrots, potatoes, stuff along that line. It's currently registered and it's managed as a restricted material. So what that basically means is all usage of it has to have approval from both the CACs and DPR. So the goals of this specific project is my team specifically was developing feasible alternative mitigation practices. We were trying to look to reduce 1,3-D emissions through these specific types of practices, and essentially try to get it as close to TIF tarping as possible. We heard from the community that TIF tarping was something, that emissions reductions close to TIF tarping was something that the community was interested in. We know that TIF tarping has its advantages and disadvantages, but we were working to come up with several different options so that we can get the same emissions reductions while giving flexibility across the state. All of this essentially will feed into our future mitigation development, and eventually I believe will serve as a foundation for us to address acute exposures. So just a quick highlight on some of the studies that we've been focusing on. These alternative mitigation measures were along the lines of a deeper injection of the fumigant. This fumigant is actually injected into the ground after it's been prepared. That was done earlier this year in Shafter. We had higher moisture content. The field has to be prepared with the proper amount of water prior to it being injected. That was done also in Shafter at the end of last year, and a partial of it was done earlier this year as well. We looked at compaction of soil, and right now we're exploring a 50-50 type of scenario where half of the field is TIF tarped, where the other half is still bare. Right now we've got a couple of leads. As some of you may have heard me before, acquiring fields for these studies are difficult, especially because there's siting criteria that the field has to abide by. Surrounding areas have to be good for us to use with our monitoring and modeling, and just getting people on board is difficult. But we do appreciate that both the CACs, some industry groups, and we had a couple of private owners step up and help us procure some of these fields. So just a quick outline on where we've been. We've essentially been targeting Kern County and Stanislaus County. Studies 1, 2, and 3 were part of a joint effort with the UC researchers, UC Davis Research Group, and that happened in the north end of Stanislaus County. So you can see there, those are the different mitigation options that were used in 3 separate fields. They're all surrounding the similar area. They're about, I want to say, a couple miles apart from each other. I can't remember the specifics off the top of my head. 4 and 6 are specific to Shafter, and I'll show maps of that in a little bit. But those 2 specifically are showing a deep broadcast, which is a typical 18-inch application with a higher moisture for the soil. The other one that was done earlier this year was a deeper injection. I'll refer to that as a deeper injection, as it's 6 inches deeper than the typical injection that's currently being used now. We also had soil compaction that was done on top of the injection as well. That's typical in other fumigants, not so much 1,3-D, but we, through hearing some feedback from the group and industry, we decided to put it into testing. So as this project kind of grew, it's very fluid, as you can see. So we're always taking in different alternatives, and if it makes sense, we'll test it and we'll see what comes about. So this is specific to the to Shafter in the Kern County region. So that 18-inch deep injection with higher moisture that I first spoke about, that's about a mile north of our air monitoring network site. That air monitoring network site sits at Sequoia Elementary School. So we have that, and the deeper injection we did about 2 miles northeast of the site. So with that, we were also continuing our weekly monitoring while we were doing the edge of field monitoring. And I'll go into a little bit more of what that encompasses in the next slide. So this is our typical setup. So when we're surrounding the field, we're trying to get actually all 3 phases of a field study. So that includes getting soil samples, getting weather samples, and getting air samples. We surround the site with anywhere between 12 and 14 air samplers. We have a dedicated on-site weather station that collects numerous amounts of meteorological information. So anything from wind speed to solar emissions, temperature, we have it all there. The team also did a great amount of work on soil characterization. So we actually looked at what type of soil is there, what was the texture, how is the organic matter in there? How is water moving through it? So all these things are pivotal parts to the study, not just the air monitoring, but just showing you there what we did and how a typical field is set up there. The fields that were in Shafter were about 1.5 acres to about 2 acres. So that's typically the size that we study. So what does all this mean? I kind of want to give you a snapshot of our results here. As you can see from the red line, that is our flux that we saw over the duration of the study. We compared that to the Knudsen study. The Knudsen study was an old study that we had that serves as a baseline for a lot of our mitigation development. So when we compare it to that study is essentially injection, typical injection, typical water moisture and whatnot. So as you can see here with the red line, Shafter has shown that the flux did show up overall lower. So that's a very promising result. We will be going back and comparing this to other studies that we're doing to make sure that we're not, this isn't a one-off, but we wanted to very much verify that this is correct. This is very much promising overall. One of the other things we compared it to was TIF tarping. That was one of the concerns that was brought up, or one of the comparisons that the community was interested in. So the blue line here is our Lost Hills study, which is specific to TIF tarping. So right there, you can see that we're getting comparable fluxes to what we saw there in Lost Hills. So we're hitting about within 15% overall through the duration. So just another chart to kind of give you a snapshot. This is the preliminary results, and it shows comparable reductions overall from our past study and the TIF study. So we're going to use this data, like I said, along with the remaining field data for the pilot project, which we envision would be about hopefully 3 more studies by the end of the year, to get a better feel for all that. So all that information will get essentially loaded into our databases, and it will help us with future mitigation measures, future rulemakings, and other next steps for the department. So it's not specific to just Shafter, but it will affect statewide and our decisions to do various things statewide. So yeah, that's basically it. I do want to also say that we did provide well, it's a front and a back fact sheets to the Air District, which graciously posted that on their website. So we have both this presentation and the fact sheets available for you. Fact sheets a little bit more layman's term, gives you a little bit of history on essentially my program, the AIR program, our involvement with the Shafter community, how long we've been there with both the AMN and also other ambient air studies. And some of this information is also located in there. With that, that was kind of the general gist of what we have. The reports are still being finalized, but I wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what we found thus far. And like I said, so far it's been promising. Again, we're going to validate that because this will essentially be scrutinized left and right. So we want to make sure that we get it right. So with that, I'll field any questions.
Thank you, Min, for that very detailed and technical presentation. I'm sure the committee members have questions for you, perhaps clarifying questions, and Jessica is texting the link to the fact sheets that are posted online. So for the remainder of our time for this agenda item, you are welcome to, pull out the fact sheets and review. I know they've just been posted before this meeting, and ask Min any clarifying questions.
Looks like you guys also caught a typo, so we'll try to fix that.
Any questions for Min about the content of this presentation? What does these numbers and figures mean? Things like that. We do have a comment from Bianca in the chat. The deeper injection will affect water quality.
So no, deeper injection for this will not affect water quality. fumigants in general volatilize, so they move upwards as a gas. So it's injected as a liquid, but immediately volatilizes into a gas, so that the physical property of it will move upwards. So we haven't seen any signs of it affecting groundwater or surface water based on, that's the other two components of my branch. So they also have an eye on it as well. We haven't seen any evidence of it moving, I want to say south, that's not right, moving downwards into the groundwater or coming or getting caught in surface water runoff.
Thanks, Min. This is excellent question, Bianca. And this is science. This is technical presentation. So you're very welcome to ask this type of clarifying questions to better understand science behind all these activities. Anyone else?
I wish I could have made the slides more fun, but the more I tried, the more confusing it got. So this is the best I could do.
Anyone on the Spanish line?
No questions.
I have a question in the chat box from, is it Michelle?
Michelle.
Do the growers find it works as well? Are you talking? So I'm assuming this is about the piloted options that we have given. Yes. So there's been some independent research that shows that the layers that are being fumigated are showing the same efficacy. Obviously, we're going to look more into this as it gets more and more used widely throughout the state. Obviously, one of our biggest thing is to have options, right? So it's something that may work in Shafter, may not work up in the north region, may not work in the coast. So like I said, it has shown to be effective from what we've seen as far as doing its job of taking out nematodes and taking out soil-borne diseases.
Another question from Bianca. What is going to happen to the high-level application that happened in 2020?
I think she's referring. Okay, so there's the high detection that we saw. I think I spoke about this last time. So our team did do an investigation on it, and we looked into potentially where the sites would have come from. Those memos are with our exec team right now, but I can tell you formally that we're investigating just the movement of the pesticide in the air. Right now, we don't see any signs of like it being a legal application or anything else. Is it a higher detection that we've seen in the past? Yes, but has it breached any thresholds as far as acute? No. So I think right now we're looking at that, but at the end of the day, these mitigation options that we're piloting here will have a direct effect on those detections moving forward. So our hope is overall, this will suppress all those detections. So it's unfortunately the modeling that we do, it's not specific to like doing investigations. So it's not like something where you can catch somebody red-handed. Obviously, it takes time for the samples to get loaded and performed and done and whatnot. So what we did is we were trying our best to understand the scenario that happened and working with the CACs in our own enforcement. But yeah, at the end of the day, my team's task is to get options that are out there to alleviate these higher detections that we're seeing.
And can I ask a quick follow-up? So you said it hasn't breached any levels that are acute. Can you just describe kind of what that means, Min, for those that don't kind of use the term acute often and what that?
Yeah, sorry.
And Min, I'm gonna pause you for just one moment. We're gonna double check that interpretation is working, and we got another request for all of us to speak a little slower. Okay, so let's see if our interpretation is working. Thank you, Bianca.
It's working again. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, so maybe repeat the question, the clarifying question, to make sure our Spanish-speaking participants know what we're answering right now.
So Jessica asked, what is acute? I apologize. Being in the scientific mind frame, I always say that. So we have different thresholds that we look at. So acute is typically a 24-hour threshold. We also have subchronic, which is anywhere from 13 weeks to, actually it's 13 weeks, sorry. And then we have chronic, which is annual. The AMN station that we have in Shafter looks at annual, so that's a year-long kind of investigation. These field samples these field monitoring that we do, this is specific to acute or 24 hours. So we're looking specifically at how much comes off of the field and the behavior of the fumigant within the first 9 days of an application. So we are actually monitoring from day 0 all the way through, so we understand the behavior of the fumigant. And to go back to I believe it's Bianca's statement about the high detections. Again, this is meant to address that through formal rulemaking or formal mitigation options. So what we're doing right now is making sure that current mitigation practices are working. If not, this is a way to address them.
Any other questions for Min? Anyone on the Spanish-speaking line or Spanish-speaking channel? Do you folks have any questions, clarifying questions? This is a good space to ask all these clarifying questions. What X means? What do you mean by Y? This is just perfect timing. And yes, Bianca, I see. Yes, the agenda states that the Ag Commissioner is gonna be presenting and having this dialogue with you guys at the next September meeting. And I love how active chat today. Like no one wants to unmute themselves, but you guys all dropping everything in the chat. You know what? That communication channel works as well. Okay, so Nan is dropping some links to the webpage on the statewide pesticide notification network. And Nan, do you want to just maybe unmute yourself and chime in with 2 words? What's on the webpage?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, I want to make sure I put the link on the chat because it's a lot easier to provide that on the chat than to say it out loud. But yeah, basically we just created a webpage. PPR webpage specifically on the pesticide notification network development that you've been hearing about for months. And there's a lot of information on there rather than just kind of like talk about it, just kind of go there. Talks about, what's going on in terms of the meetings and the public meetings that we're scheduling. And also, the object, the purpose of notification, as well as some basic information on why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah, that's the link. And again, this is just the ongoing development for the statewide system that we've been working on. So, and also there's a listserv too, so folks can just type in their email, the listserv link, and get automatic updates on information related to this topic. Good job, man.
I'm seeing another message that interpretation is not working. Can we pause and see if interpretation is working or not?
I'm not hearing any issues on my end, so I'm not sure if maybe it's just their computer, but we can try it again. Yo te puedo escuchar. I can hear you. So, no sé, Bianca, can you hear them on your side, or Anabel? ¿Sí lo escuchan, Anabel?
Sí.
Okay. Sí, okay, we don't have any issues at this moment. Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks, Mari. The presentation that Min went over is posted online in Spanish and in English. Also online, fact sheets are posted as well. I do want to acknowledge that this was posted today. So you guys are encouraged to check the presentation, check the fact sheets. There's a lot of technical information, so you're welcome to reach out to Min or Jessica, and maybe I'm like speaking out of terms, but like ask any clarifying questions, what X or Y means, because it's science and sometimes it needs additional translation, and we want you to understand what does it mean. Bianca, I do want to circle back to you. I see your message that interpretation was missing for some pieces of information. And I just want to double check if you would like us to summarize some of those pieces of information to ensure that our Spanish speaking participants are able to fully participate and follow this meeting. And can you clarify which pieces of information were missing from the interpretation? What would you like us to maybe revisit or summarize again? So you would like us to summarize something on the notifications. Do you need a little bit more?
No, I think so. I think Nan had spoken about this. So the team at DPR put up on the webpage updates on our pesticide notification network and a couple upcoming meetings. Nan had provided the link there. Feel free to check it out. It'll give you additional information on ongoing work on that. That's the ask of the community before, specifically with the notification and how that's affecting our progress with it statewide. There's also a listserv there, so I also would encourage you, if you want additional information, to drop your email address in there. You'll get emails provided to you when breaking news comes about, so you can get that first.
Thank you, Min. Bianca, did that answer your suggestions or question? Okay, great. All right, well, I don't see any other hands.
So I think maybe this is where you're going, Hannah, but Bianca did have another suggestion in the chat. And I think this is what we were going to do next, was her question about what we're going to talk about next in September about DPR and the Ag Commissioner. So I think we're ready for that piece, if you are.
For the questions?
Yes.
Okay, so as you guys know, the Air District informed us that the Ag Commissioner said that he would like to be part of the agenda, be on the agenda, and have this conversation. For this meeting, there was a conflict of schedules, but the next meeting we should be all set. So this is an exciting opportunity to continue this dialogue and to have the stakeholders at the table and go above and beyond just our standard updates. And one of the suggestions is to take advantage of this opportunity and to ensure that there's productive conversation, to brainstorm a list of questions this committee has for the Ag Commissioner, or maybe even for the Department of Pesticide Regulation. We don't want you to miss this opportunity and have all the questions brainstormed in advance. But also another goal for that is to ensure that other stakeholders on their sides are prepared to fully answer your questions. And sometimes, as you guys know, some of the questions require additional research. So for the next maybe 10 minutes, if you guys like this idea, I would like to open up the floor and just start brainstorming a list of questions. What would you like to know from the Ag Commissioner? What would you like to ask? And then we'll combine those questions and share them with the Ag Commissioner and his team. And that will get us a first step to start this conversation at the next meeting. So I would like to open up the floor to the committee members to raise your hand, unmute, and just share the questions that you have for the Ag Commissioner or other stakeholders, and we'll take notes on these questions. What would you like to know? Gaz, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and this is to build the questions for next month's meeting for him to be prepared.
Kind of getting this jump start preparing for the next meeting. The Air District will follow up and remind you to submit your questions after this meeting. There might be another opportunity at the agenda setting meeting, but at the agenda setting meeting, not everyone can attend those. So to ensure inclusive participation, we would like to spend the next 10 minutes and invite you to just, shoot your questions, and we'll make a list of it.
Right on. Yeah, so part of my question obviously is as one of the strategies in the SERP, which is a pesticide notification. I know there's kind of like obviously a standstill in how we move that forward. I understand there's like the statewide notification that is at play now. But I definitely want to know from the Ag Commissioner's perspective what he or the Ag Commissioner's office has done at all, like in good faith, to get some ground covered on the pesticide notification. So like, what have they done, if they've done anything at all? So that's definitely a question that I have. And then the other question would be like, given that there's a statewide notification, capital allocation from the governor's office for this, and pretty legitimate strategy here in our SERP, like what are the next levels of implementation of this? Like, how do they look like in Shafter? So like, 2.0 of this pesticide notification in Shafter, what is it? How does it look like? And how are we going to roll something out? So those would be like my two main questions for him in his office.
Great. Thank you, Gus. And you are modeling perfectly what I was trying to achieve with this segment. Kind of start brainstorming what are some questions so we can organize them by theme and ensure that the right people will prepare to answer those questions for you. What else? What else would you like to know from the Ag Commissioner and his team? And there's no right or wrong questions. This is an open space, open floor. Anyone? How about our Spanish-speaking participants?
No questions on the phone line.
And again, the goal for brainstorming questions in advance is to have that productive dialogue, to make sure you guys ask what you want to ask and you don't forget anything that you've been wanting to know, for example, for the past several months. And for that for the Ag Commissioner and his team to give you compelling questions and do some additional research in advance if needed. So instead of saying, I'll get back to you next week, they're prepared to answer your questions at that September meeting. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. Any other questions that come to mind you would like to know to ask at the September meeting? Well, I'm seeing no other actions, and I hope we're not overwhelming you with this request, but start thinking about it. The Area District will follow up with this opportunity via email and let you know the date when you can think through these questions and submit to the Area District. And Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, at the agenda setting meeting, there's going to be another opportunity to brainstorm these questions, although not everyone will be able to attend the agenda setting.
Exactly, absolutely. So if you think of a couple more, certainly shoot those over and we'll maybe just review them at the agenda setting meeting. But as Hannah said, the sooner we can get them over to, you have DPR on the call that can maybe help answer some of these as well, but especially since we have the ear of the Ag Commissioner and he's willing to answer questions, I'm sure he'll be happy to take some in real time as well. But if we can get some in advance, I think that would be helpful. So thank you.
Great. Okay, well, stay tuned for September meeting. It's gonna be great. All right, we're gonna keep moving along the agenda. And next we're gonna have our standing updates, which if you've noticed, if you've been paying attention, we kind of flip-flopped those agenda items and placed agenda standing updates at the end of the agenda. So, you know, to change the dynamic of the meeting a little bit. So it's not every meeting is boring and monotonous. And here comes my another shameless plug for community co-host. Please volunteer and let us know how else can we make these meetings better, more positive, and more engaging. So please volunteer to co-host the next meeting. Okay, next on the agenda, we're gonna have standing updates from the air district on air monitoring updates, and then followed by our partner agencies, CARB, City of Shafter, Kern, and Kern County. And do we have John or Chai on the line to give us an update?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. This is John Klassen with the Air District. Happy to be here and provide a few updates on air monitoring in the community of Shafter. So we continue to operate the network that we've established here in Shafter with the support of the community steering committee here. All the sites are continuing to operate. Just wanted to give you an update on the last site that we are working to get set in place in Mexican Colony. We've been working closely with Kern County on some of those logistics. We're working at the details right now on what we can do to do any potential electrical upgrades that are needed to bring the needed power to that area to get our PM 2.5 instrument operating there as soon as we can. So we are working through those details with Kern County right now and their staff, and it's been great to work with them on this. We're also working through the details of the lease agreement to have that in place once we're ready to do all the support work and get that equipment running as soon as we can. Did want to note too that when our staff are down in the Shafter area to maintain the equipment that's operating there, we are making an effort to be in Mexican Colony as much as we can with our air monitoring band to collect as much data as we can there in the interim before we get our instrument there that'll run 24 hours a day. So we're trying to collect as much as we can in the in-between before we get that instrument operating there. Did want to note too that we'll be posting our next quarterly report soon to the Shafter Community Air Monitoring webpage. That will give an overview of the fourth quarter of 2020, all the data that was collected there. And we're finishing our summaries of the first 2 quarters in 2021 through June of this year. And once we have that posted, we can provide some more details on what we saw with all the data that was collected over the past few quarters in Shafter. And that's it for my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John on air monitoring update? This is a quiet group today. I don't know what's happening. Anyone from on the Spanish line? Any questions for John?
No questions on my side?
Okay, thank you, John, for that update.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Scott with CARB. Scott, what do you have for us?
Hi, good evening. Yes, Scott Wall with the California Air Resources Board. I do have a couple of quick updates. One is that in late July, the district did forward out a message to the community steering committee members about an upcoming convening for participants in the AB 617 process to reflect on implementation and envision ways to foster collaboration. The message contained a link to a survey for you to share your thoughts. Encourage you to complete that survey if you haven't already. The deadline to complete that is August 16th. That survey is available in both Spanish and English in the link that the district forwarded out to you. And if you haven't already, you should be seeing in the very near future an opportunity to actually register for that event as well to participate in that. So we would just strongly encourage you, if you're available, to please give the feedback and to participate in that event. The other thing I wanted to update you about is the Air Resources Board made a couple of commitments to the community of Shafter as it related to the rail crossing issues. One we talked about, I think, last month, where I gave you the name and number of somebody at BNSF that you could phone in complaints to. And since the last meeting, we actually were able to meet up with the director of rail safety with the California Public Utilities Commission. And so we came up with a little bit of a process, and I'm going to turn to Michael James to help me out a little bit because some of this is late breaking information. But what the Public Utilities Commission is asking is if you actually witness kind of blocked intersections or really lengthy delays of trains because of long trains, that you actually record the location of the blocked intersection, the date, the start and stop times of the blockage, and whether or not you spoke with somebody actually at the railroad, so probably that person that I gave you the name of last month, and if so, who you spoke with. And that complaint should actually then go to the city of Shafter. They are actually asking the city of Shafter to kind of be the centralized point of collecting that data and then periodically reporting that back out to the Public Utilities Commission. And so with that, I did send, I think, a little private message to Michael James earlier, but I think we could maybe get that phone number and the contact name in the chat. Michael, are you able to help me out with this at all?
Yes. Sorry, I missed that chat message, but
okay.
Since I had a discussion with the city manager and the public information officer that I had originally thought would have been the first point of contact to field these questions and concerns and the data that we're trying to capture here. But I was on the late breaking theme. I'm thinking about what the city's thinking about developing a web-based application, and we could even add it to potentially to the Shafter mobile app for people to report this and upload photos, perhaps. What we're concerned about is overwhelming the public information officer and then kind of suggesting to the residents that the city has any type of regulatory control or really significant influence over these ag grade crossings, which we don't. We're happy to we're happy to assist with the compilation of data and getting it to the right people at the CPUC. But we're kind of we're hoping to maybe as early as the next meeting push out an online portal, if you will. We would always we'll give people the options of calling City Hall, but I think if we're talking about that level of detail, and I think pictures would be even more powerful. We've certainly shared photos like that with the railroads and the CPUC, but I'd like to propose to the committee that the city focus on a online portal for and even perhaps an extension of the Shafter mobile app for folks to report this nuisance, and if that's okay.
Thank you, Michael, for stepping in on that. I know that there had been a couple of loose ends as of an email that I received this morning, so appreciate that update from your side. So I guess the short story is that we are still working together. There are several agencies involved here, but certainly trying to create a process. CPUC, I could tell you the person that we met with a couple of weeks back is actually very interested and very engaged, and really does see oftentimes these things as a safety concern, which is the reason why he's the one that we were in touch with. While they don't really have, also a little bit like the city of Shafter, don't really have any regulatory strings to pull on this issue, they certainly could address it from a safety issue. So just want to let you know that we're continuing to work that. And Michael, maybe you and I can work offline a little bit more this next month and have something a little bit more well developed to bring before the committee next month. So I'm sorry, Michael, didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I thought that we were a little bit closer to actually having full resolution, but thank you for the update on that. And if anybody has any questions about the convening survey or this, I'm certainly happy to answer those. And that's all I've got today.
There is definitely a thank you from Linda to Michael and Scott for continuing to working on the train issue and on making great progress. Any questions for Scott, or any questions for Scott? Anyone on this Espanol line?
No questions.
And Scott, Linda is asking you to share the contact information again in the chat.
Perfect. I will go back and find it. I'm sure it's somewhere in my email history, so I certainly can. I'm assuming, Linda, you mean the BNSF contact that you can call directly?
Yes, I was just wondering if we could put that back in the chat for everyone to use again. Thank you
Certainly.
so much.
I will. I'll find it and get it posted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. With that, Michael, we are moving into our partner agency updates, and I want to circle back to Michael to see if he has any other updates on this time, at this time.
Nothing to report other than I had the opportunity to have a discussion, a Zoom call discussion with Brian, Ryan, and Jessica, I believe, on July 15th to zero in on the possibilities for projects to be funded and constructed. We did touch on the electric charging station program, which I understand is approved and we've actually pushed out or promoted the opportunity at the council meeting and our social media outlets for people to access the application and submit the application. So hopefully there'll be some responses to that. I've also shared some with the district or kind of revisited with the district the charging station opportunities at publicly accessible parking lots within the city. I think we had at least a couple of opportunities for charging stations to be funded. And we also talked a little bit about, or we're trying to zero in on or refine a list of projects that that can be readily constructed and they kind of fit the needs and the priorities of the steering committee. So nothing specific to report, but we are continuing to have some dialogue, and hopefully we'll have some more progress to report at the next meeting.
Thank you for that quick update, Mike. So as you've heard, the dialogue continues, and the district and the city of Shafter continue to work together, and we'll report back more updates when they have any. Any quick questions for Michael? And Michael, I just wanted to clarify, would you like me to ask the committee about their thoughts for online portal, just to get a quick thoughts and temperature on the online portal to submit rail crossing issues?
I'd like to know what level of technology, what level of involvement they would like to, what they would expect to see if they report the issues relating to rail crossings in the city. I don't know if they have preferred to talk to someone, have someone to talk to, or if they would prefer to take advantage of an app or an online portal for reporting these issues to the city and ultimately the CPUC.
So the question for the committee, what are your thoughts on having an online platform or online portal to submit rail crossing information, rail crossing issues? Would that tool potentially work for the community and for you and for the community? And so Michael did express the preference to have that tool over, direct phone call and directly call into the city, but we would like to hear your thoughts because it's an important issue for you guys. So we want to make sure we incorporate your thoughts into the, designing the solutions, how to report rail crossing issues. So Linda is saying the Shafter app sounds like a great idea. It would be a great way to keep track and add photos. Any other thoughts on Shafter app, online portal versus calling someone in person to report rail crossing issues? Just feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. Anyone on the Spanish channel? Any thoughts around railroad crossing issues reporting, online portal, website versus Shafter app, calling someone? Do you have any thoughts?
Looks like we don't have any questions.
Okay, well, we did hear from Linda, so thank you for that input, Linda. I see Angie smiling. I'm doing my best, Angie. Yep, thank you for that thumbs up. Okay, looks like we've heard from Scott, we've heard from Michael, we've heard from John. Do we have anyone from Kern County? Anything you would like to share today with the committee?
Hi, this is Alexa from Kern County Public Works.
Hi, Alexa.
Hi. So just an update. We've presented at the last couple of meetings. We will be applying for CMAQ, the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant for the Mexican Colony sidewalks. The application is due this week. So we will be applying for that. However, we want the committee to know that the cost effectiveness of this project is not looking great. It is our lowest cost effectiveness score, which means the project is unlikely to be funded by this grant source. What this means is the project costs more money than the air emissions benefits that the project will create, essentially. And so this grant application cycle only comes around every 2 years. So our next opportunity to apply would be 2 years from now. We're still going to submit the application in the off chance that it is funded or we make a contingency list. But we wanted to bring this to your attention, and this goes back to my earlier question in the chat about how it sounds like the vegetative barriers measure may be able to be reversed in terms of the match ratio. And if the road dust 2 measure the match requirement could be reversed. Right now, the measure is structured to where the air district would provide around a 12% cost match, and the remaining, the 88% would have to be funded by a grant or Kern County. If there's any way that measure could be reversed, we could complete this project. But if not, Kern County is incredibly fiscally constrained and has been for years, and we just don't have the funds to fund 88% of a $1 million project. So we just wanted to bring that up and see if there's any way that a cost match ratio could be reversed for RD2 if this is not funded by the CMAQ grant program, because we're not aware of any other grants out there that this project would be any more competitive for. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Alexa. And I'll definitely just jump on. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I agree. And I think much to what we're doing with the city, we want to continue that conversation with the county. I believe the funding that's allocated in the SERP is just in total for the projects, both in the city of Shafter and in the county of Shafter, or, you know, Kern County purview within the boundary. So we definitely want to be in touch and work with you both on figuring that out. But certainly we've shown, as you mentioned, that for certain, if we find that there's no other way to get these done, much like we did with urban greening, there's definitely room to have those discussions and see what our governing board thinks if we could, you know, take it to them. Ultimately, obviously, in the SERP, it's written as the match, so we'll definitely move forward if that is the only way forward, and make sure we can get board's approval before we move forward. So those would be the steps we take. So Alexa and Mike, of course, Mike, we have had a lot of recent conversations. Alexa, definitely more recently. We'll definitely reach out to you, be in touch, and hopefully have a good update for what those next steps are, maybe by the next meeting, if not the meeting after.
Fantastic, thank you.
And I saw a thumb up from Michelle. Thank you for participating, using your reactions, Michelle. Agreeing with what Jessica was saying. Okay, any other questions for Alexa or Jess around this application? The good news, the county is going to submit the application, and it does take staff time and resources to submit the application and prepare. So thank you, Alexa, for submitting that application, and thank you to this committee members who participated in reviewing the project and signing the letter of support. And we'll go from there. Any questions for Alexa or Jessica? Anyone on the Espanol line?
No questions?
Michelle, I see your hand.
It would sure be nice if we could figure something out. I mean, that community out there could benefit greatly for getting that taken care of. If we could figure out how to move something around or some other program. I mean, we wrote a letter of support. I mean, if we showed up, people showed up at the meeting and, pleaded our case, is there anything that we could do to help them or sway them anyway?
By them, are you asking me about the governing board or Alexa about the folks that review the application?
Anybody, all of the above.
I can speak for, and maybe Alexa, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's a meeting that reviews this application, but I'll let her speak to that. For the governing board, what will happen is, if we get to that point, we'll certainly let you know, but we don't, the whole point of this SERP is to make sure we have funds allocated for measures that will happen and that will get funded. So I think similarly, I obviously can't guarantee anything, but I think similarly to the path forward we found for urban greening, we want to find paths forward for whatever we can. So if we've exhausted the way that it's written in the SERP, we certainly want to make sure we can find a path forward in a different manner. And then, kind of all encompassing in that, of course, is we will then write a program plan, hopefully maybe that outlines that in particular, submit it to CARB, go through that approval process too. But I think CARB, they're all here listening to what's going on. So in terms of pleading the case, I think if we get to that point, which we very well may, we will have a pretty good case, I think, already built to move that approval along, hopefully.
And Michelle, to answer the question about the CMAQ grant program, unfortunately, no matter how many letters of support we provide, it's all down to the numbers, and the cost effectiveness is just so low that no amount, I don't think any amount of support from the community would help. It's all about the numbers.
Thank you for that question. And I do want to emphasize, as we are in year 1 of SERP implementation, this is a learning process for all of us, for you guys, for this committee, for this community, for the stakeholders. And we try, we'll look at the projects which are moving forward, not moving forward, and then we pivot. We get together, we brainstorm, what else can we do? And it's definitely a learning process for all of us. So thank you for being part of it. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, your participation, your voices are incredibly important, and this is your process. So thank you, Michelle, for brainstorming right away. What else can we do? And as Jessica reassures, we submit the Kern County will submit the application, and we will revisit this opportunity. We'll go from there. Okay, well, I see no other hands, no other chat activities, so I'm gonna move this group into our wrap up. And this is my last and final plug for asking for volunteers to be a community co-host. We do want to hear your voice side by side with facilitator voice. We do encourage you to volunteer for the next meeting. You don't have to talk for the entire meeting, whatever is your comfort zone, whatever you want to chime in, but you will participate in the agenda setting, you will touch base with the area district and facilitator before the meeting, and you'll contribute, you'll have your community members to get to know you better because you are more present in the meeting, and you will contribute with different voice, with your perspective, with leading, co-leading the meeting, however it works for you. So with that, do I have a hand or a yes in the chat that yes, I would like to co-host, co-volunteer next time. Do I have a volunteer to co-host? I feel like I've done everything I could today, Jessica and Heather. Oh, guys, I love your reactions. And it's okay to volunteer for the second or for the third time. Just because you volunteered once or twice doesn't mean you're done. Please volunteer. And we do encourage our Spanish-speaking participants to volunteer as well. We're just going to do reverse translation. We're going to go with Spanish first and English second. So it's a great opportunity to have your voice be a little bit more present and heard in the meeting. Okay, I'm exhausted my persuasion abilities. Oh, Gaz.
All right, we'll keep that in mind, Gustavo. Maybe we'll give people until the agenda setting meeting to let us know, and then we'll announce at the agenda setting meeting that it'll be you guys.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, what else is in our wrap-up process? Our next meeting is gonna be on September 13th, our regular time, 5 through 7. It's going to be on Zoom. So what you will see from the Air District, the Air District will be following up with the email, and I took some notes on some of the action items. So the Air District will be sending you an email asking you for additional questions for Ag Commissioner and his team, and some of the questions you would like to ask in the September meeting. Perhaps some of the questions will go to DPR. So the goal is here to ensure there's a right person to answer your questions. So start thinking about your questions on pesticide notifications. The Air District will follow up with additional ask of the ways to promote wood burning applications, perhaps some targeted outreach, perhaps specific groups or locations where we can reach those residents. And you guys shared a fantastic list today with the Air District, but just in case something else pops up in your mind, so keep a note, keep a look out for that email with this additional information. Also, the quarterly report, air monitoring report, is going to be posted online. So keep an eye on the website. Let me see if I'm missing the chat. Okay, I'm not missing. Also, let's see what else. Scott mentioned survey, Scott mentioned survey, CARP survey about your AB 617 participatory experience, and a date for the meeting for AB 617 participants from all the community. So keep an eye for those information as well. And that's about it, what I took in my notes. So keep an eye on the communication. There's always a lot of communication going your way. Okay, well, let's go into public comments to see if we have any members of the public who are attending this meeting on Zoom. This is a good chance to unmute yourself or post your public comments or questions in the chat. If you're on a Facebook and if you haven't had a chance to post your comments or questions, now is also a good time to do that. And also our third public participation opportunity is just to send the Air District an email. So if you're participating on Zoom, raise your blue hand or press *9 from your phone and let us know your question or comment. And meanwhile, I'm seeing none. I'm going to ask Heather to see if we have anything on the Facebook or in the email inbox.
We do not on YouTube or in the inbox or on Facebook.
All right, well, with that, I would like to thank you all for spending this evening attending 34th CSC committee meeting. Your participation is incredibly important, and we're grateful for you being here and contributing and sharing your ideas and suggestions how you can make the Shafter community healthier and improve the air quality. Thank you for being here. We're going to see you next time in September. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.